It was a normal afternoon at Royal Bites, a famous restaurant in the city. The tables were full, the music was soft, and people were laughing, enjoying their expensive meals. The waiters moved quickly, serving dishes with a smile. Everything looked perfect. Mr. Raj, the owner of the restaurant, stood near the counter, watching everything. He wore a shiny suit, gold watch, and sunglasses, even though he was inside. He loved to look rich. For him, his restaurant was not just a business. It was a place for only the best kind of people. Suddenly, the big glass door opened. Everyone turned to look. A couple slowly walked in. Their clothes were simple and old. The man wore a faded shirt and loose pants. The woman had a small scarf around her head. Their shoes were dusty. They carried a tiny cloth bag. The restaurant went silent. Some customers whispered. Some frowned. The waiter at the door froze. He looked at Mr. Raj, confused. Mr. Raj's smile disappeared. His face turned red. He walked quickly toward the couple. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice cold. The man gently smiled. "A table for two, please." Mr. Raj laughed loudly. "A table? Here? Are you serious?" The couple looked at each other. The woman held her husband's arm tightly. She looked down, embarrassed. "This is not a dhaba," Mr. Raj said loudly so everyone could hear. "Look at your clothes. Do you even have money to pay?" The man stayed calm. "We are not here to trouble anyone. We can pay. We just want a simple meal." Mr. Raj stepped closer. "No, I don't want people like you here. Leave before I call security." The woman looked like she would cry, but the man gently placed his hand on her back and said, "Come, let's go." They turned around, slowly walking toward the door. Just then, something dropped from the man's pocket. A small brown envelope. The waiter, who was still standing at the door, picked it up quickly and called out, "Sir, you dropped this." The man turned back and took the envelope silently. But as the waiter touched it, he felt something inside. A metallic badge and some papers. He quickly looked at the first paper. His eyes widened. It was a military hospital letter. Before he could ask anything, the man nodded and said, "Thank you," and walked out with his wife. The waiter stood frozen for a second. Mr. Raj looked angry. "Why did you talk to them?" he asked the waiter sharply. "Sir, I think they were not what we thought," the waiter began. Mr. Raj rolled his eyes. "Don't be foolish. People like them are always making excuses. I know their type. Always pretending." The waiter didn't answer. He looked outside through the glass. The couple was walking slowly along the road, holding hands. No anger, no hate, just silence and sadness. Something inside him didn't feel right. Mr. Raj went back to his table. He smiled at some guests, acting like nothing had happened. But the guests didn't smile back. They had seen everything. One lady whispered to her husband, "That was too harsh." Another man said to his friend, "They looked tired, not dangerous." The atmosphere had changed, but Mr. Raj didn't care. He poured himself a drink and sat back in his leather chair, thinking he had done the right thing. Outside, the couple sat on a bench near the bus stop. The woman leaned on the man's shoulder. He opened the brown envelope again and looked at the letter. He whispered, "I just wanted to give you one peaceful memory." The woman smiled softly. "It's okay. At least we tried." They sat there, saying nothing. But something was about to change. The waiter was watching from inside. And the envelope's contents, they had a story. A story that could shock everyone. A story that Mr. Raj would never forget. The sun was setting behind the tall buildings. The couple sat quietly on a bench near the road, outside the restaurant that had turned them away. The woman leaned her head on the man's shoulder, and he held her hand gently. Inside the restaurant, the waiter stood near the window. He couldn't stop thinking about them. Something didn't feel right. He remembered the hospital letter and the shiny metal badge. He saw inside the envelope for just a second. It didn't look fake. It looked official, real. His curiosity grew stronger. He looked at Mr. Raj, who was laughing and talking to customers again, acting like nothing had happened. But the mood inside the restaurant wasn't the same. People weren't smiling. Some were whispering. Some looked uncomfortable. And some kept glancing at the glass door, where the couple had walked out just a few minutes ago. The waiter made a decision. He quickly took off his apron and stepped outside. The man noticed him coming but didn't say anything. The woman gave a soft smile, even though her face looked tired and pale. "Sir, madam," the waiter said, a little nervous, "I'm really sorry about what happened inside." The man smiled politely. "It's okay. You did nothing wrong." The waiter sat on the edge of the bench and said, "I saw something in your envelope, a badge. Were you in the army?" The man looked down, silent for a moment. Then he spoke. "Yes, I was. Many years ago." The woman looked at him with proud eyes. "I joined the army when I was very young," he continued. "My job was to protect the country. I never cared about money, or clothes, or luxury. I only wanted to serve." He paused. "During a riot many years ago, I saved a man who was being attacked by an angry mob. I remember pulling him into a shop and locking the door until help came." The waiter leaned forward. "That man, do you remember who he was?" The man nodded slowly. "His name was Raj. He owned a small food stall back then. I still remember his scared face. I left before he could thank me." The waiter's eyes widened in shock. "That's Mr. Raj, the same man who insulted you today." The man smiled faintly. "I thought so. But why didn't you tell him?" the waiter asked. "Would it change anything?" The man replied gently. "If he couldn't see our worth without knowing who we are, then maybe we were never worth anything to him." The woman softly touched her husband's hand. She looked weak but calm. The waiter asked, "Why did you come to this restaurant today?" The woman looked up with tired eyes and said, "This was the place where we celebrated our first anniversary. Back then, it was just a small cafe. We had very little, but we were happy." The man continued, "I returned from duty after months of being away. We ate here, laughed, talked. It was a beautiful memory." The woman whispered, "And now, I just wanted to remember that moment. One last time." The waiter looked confused. "What do you mean, last time?" The man handed him the hospital letter. The waiter's heart dropped as he read it. Tears formed in his eyes. The letter said the woman was seriously ill. Terminal stage. Only weeks left to live. He looked at the couple, now understanding the full weight of the moment. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice shaking. The man nodded. "It's not your fault. We sold the last thing we had, my old army watch, just to afford a small meal here. I wanted to give her one last memory of peace." The woman smiled through her pain. "But even if we couldn't eat inside, just being here together is enough for me." The waiter wiped his eyes. "Please wait here. I'll be back." He ran back into the restaurant. Inside, Mr. Raj noticed him and frowned. "Where were you? Come back to work." But the waiter stood straight and firm. "Sir, I need to tell you something." Mr. Raj raised an eyebrow. "What now?" The waiter took a deep breath. "The man you insulted today saved your life during the riot. He was the one who helped you years ago." Mr. Raj's face froze. The waiter continued, "He's a war veteran. And the woman with him, she's dying. They sold their last memory to have a simple meal here." Mr. Raj sat back in shock. He remembered. The face. The eyes. The strong arms pulling him out of danger. It was the same man. His heart began to pound. He had insulted the very man who had saved his life. He stood up quickly. "Where are they?" The waiter pointed. "Still sitting outside." Mr. Raj didn't wait. He rushed to the door, his pride forgotten, his face full of guilt. Outside, The couple was still sitting on the bench. The woman leaned quietly against her husband. Mr. Raj stepped out, slowly, like a man carrying the weight of shame on his shoulders. He stood in front of them, unable to speak. The man looked up, calm as ever. Mr. Raj whispered, I remember now. It was you. You saved me." The man nodded, saying nothing. "I'm sorry," Mr. Raj said, his voice shaking. "I was blind. I didn't see." The woman smiled weakly. "It's all right. We didn't come for attention, just for peace." Mr. Raj's eyes filled with tears. He turned to the man. "Please, come back inside, as my guests." The man looked at his wife. She nodded softly. And together, they stood up. The couple stepped back into the restaurant. This time, not as strangers, not as unwanted guests, but with silent respect surrounding them. The same people who had judged them before now moved aside quietly. The air felt heavy with emotion. Mr. Raj led them to a special table near the window. It had white flowers, a clean cloth, and soft lighting. The same spot they had sat years ago. The woman looked around, her eyes misty. The man helped her sit gently. She looked tired, more tired than before, but her smile was soft. The waiter brought water and some warm soup. Mr. Raj stood nearby, unsure of how to speak. "I don't know how to undo my mistake," he said slowly. "But I hope this can be a new memory, a better one." The man looked up. Memories don't need to be perfect. They just need to be real. The woman nodded weakly. "And this one is." They began to eat slowly. The waiter stood back, watching. Mr. Raj quietly left them alone, giving them space. The restaurant was silent, but not cold. It felt like something special was happening, something pure. As the meal continued, the woman reached into her small bag. She took out the same brown envelope that had fallen earlier. She looked at her husband and said, "There's something I've never shown you." The man raised his eyebrows. "What is it?" She placed the envelope on the table. The man opened it carefully. Inside was the hospital letter, and something else, a handwritten note, folded and yellow with age. He slowly unfolded it. As he began to read, his hands started shaking. The note said, "To the love of my life. If you are reading this, I might be gone soon. I want you to live fully, even after me. I know you will try to hide your pain, like you always do. But please, don't forget to laugh. Don't forget to live. I have watched you suffer so much. Your body carries the weight of war, but your heart never complains. You saved lives, but you still feel like you didn't do enough. Let me tell you this. You were always enough. You were always my hero. Thank you for giving me love in this hard world. I'll wait for you on the other side. Yours always, Mira." The man's lips trembled. He covered his face with his hands. The waiter, watching from a distance, felt his chest tighten. Mira, the woman sitting in front of him, had written this in case she passed away before today. And her husband had never seen it before now. She placed her hand on his and said, "I didn't want to give it to you while I was still here. But tonight felt right. I don't know how much longer I have." Tears fell from the man's eyes. He bent down, holding her hand tightly. "You are my whole world," he whispered. "I don't care what happens. I will remember your smile until my last breath." Mira smiled softly, but her eyes were tired, her body weak. The waiter brought a small dessert plate. "It's on the house," he said gently, "for your anniversary." Mira's face lit up for a moment. She picked up a spoon and fed her husband a bite. They both laughed quietly like two kids sharing a secret. Mr. Raj watched from afar. For the first time, he didn't feel rich. He felt small. His money, his gold watch, his shiny shoes, none of it could buy the kind of love and strength he had just witnessed. He turned to the waiter and said, "Do you still have that framed photo space by the entrance?" "Yes, sir," The waiter replied. Tomorrow, I want their picture there, with a message. Real strength lives in silent hearts. The waiter smiled and nodded. Later that night, the couple walked out of the restaurant together. The city lights flickered gently. The roads were calm. They didn't speak much. No more words were needed. At the bus stop, Mira sat down again, resting her head on her husband's shoulder. He gently wrapped his arms around her. "I'm not afraid anymore," she whispered. He looked up at the stars and said, "Neither am I." That night, Mira closed her eyes in peace, and in the arms of the man who loved her more than life, she quietly slipped away. The next morning, a small photograph appeared near the restaurant entrance. It showed a simple couple, holding hands, smiling softly. Under it, in bold letters, "Some hearts don't wear gold. They carry it inside." The next morning, the restaurant, Royal Bites, opened like always. Waiters arranged the tables, soft music played, and the kitchen prepared for the day's first orders. But something was different. Right near the entrance, where Mr. Raj had once kept his awards and photos with celebrities, a new photo had been placed. It showed a simple couple, an old man in a faded shirt, and a fragile woman holding his hand, both smiling gently. Below the photo, a note read, "Some hearts don't wear gold. They carry it inside." Customers stopped and stared. Some read the line twice. Others smiled quietly. No one asked questions, but everyone felt something. Inside the restaurant, Mr. Raj sat alone at a corner table. He wasn't dressed in his usual shiny suit. No gold chain, no loud perfume. Just a plain shirt and silence. The events of the previous night kept playing in his mind. The woman's weak smile, the letter, the husband's tears, and that final moment at the bus stop. He had never seen love like that. Not in the rich parties, not in the business world. That kind of love was real, pure, and silent. For the first time in years, he felt ashamed. He thought about how easily he had judged them by their clothes, how quick he was to insult, how blind he had been to their pain. He looked at the table they had once sat at, the one where Mira had shared her last meal. There was no noise in the restaurant now, only regret. A young boy came in, holding his father's hand. They paused at the entrance, looking at the new photo. The father asked the waiter, "Who are they?" The waiter replied softly, "Heroes." Mr. Raj overheard that word, heroes. It echoed in his head. He suddenly stood up and called his staff for a meeting. Everyone gathered near the counter. Waiters, chefs, even the cleaner stood, confused. Mr. Raj looked at them and said, "Last night, I saw something that changed me. A man with nothing gave more love than anyone I've ever met." He paused, his voice a little shaky. "I want this restaurant to be different now. Not just for the rich, but for anyone who's hungry, tired, or looking for peace." The staff looked surprised. He continued, "From today, every week, we'll keep one table free for anyone who needs it. No questions, no judgment, just food and respect." One of the waiters asked, "Even if they can't pay?" Mr. Raj nodded, "Yes, especially then." There was silence for a moment. Then the head chef clapped slowly. One by one, the rest followed. They had never seen Mr. Raj like this, humble, human, and real. Later that day, Mr. Raj visited a small watch shop near the station. The owner remembered him. "I'm looking for something," Raj said. The shopkeeper brought out a simple old army watch. "Someone sold this last week. Said he needed to buy dinner for his wife." Raj held the watch gently. It was scratched, the strap worn, but to him, it looked like gold. "Can I buy it back?" Raj asked. The shopkeeper nodded. He said if anyone ever asked, to return it only to someone with a kind heart. Raj smiled sadly. "I'll try to be that person now." He paid for the watch and left quietly. That evening, he visited a small community park. There, he saw the man again, Mira's husband, sitting alone on a bench, holding her photo in his lap. Raj walked up slowly and sat beside him. For a while, they said nothing. Then Raj spoke. "I brought something for you." He opened his hand and showed the old army watch. The man stared at it, surprised. He held it gently, and his eyes filled with tears. "I thought it was gone," he whispered. Raj replied, "No, it found its way back." They sat quietly again. After a few moments, Raj said, "You changed me. Your wife. She showed me what love really means. I've built this restaurant for years, but last night, I finally understood its true purpose." The man looked at him. "Kindness." Raj nodded. "Kindness." They stood up slowly. Before leaving, Raj added, "There's always a table for you now. Anytime. Forever." The man smiled softly. She would have liked that. And then he walked away, his steps light, his heart a little less heavy. Back at the restaurant, more people began to notice the photo at the door. Some even took pictures, but no one touched it. It felt sacred. A new tradition began. Every week, a table was kept free. Some days, a tired worker came. Another day, a sick old man. Sometimes, a mother with a hungry child. They were all served with respect, no questions asked. And every time, Mr. Raj would look at Mira's photo and whisper. Weeks passed. The restaurant, Royal Bites, was no longer just a place for the rich. It had become something more, a place where dignity was served along with food, where silence had meaning, and where kindness lived at every table. The framed photo of Mira and her husband stayed near the entrance. Every day, customers, new and old, would stop to read the message under the photo. Some hearts don't wear gold. They carry it inside. It had become more than just a quote. It was now the soul of the restaurant. Mr. Raj was not the same man anymore. He no longer wore gold chains or flashy suits. His tone had softened. He listened more, talked less. He remembered faces, not wallets. And most importantly, he had found peace, a feeling he never had, even when his business was booming. One morning, a group of college students came into the restaurant. They had heard stories on social media about the mysterious couple whose photo hung near the door. They asked the waiter, "Is it true that this place changed because of them?" The waiter smiled. "Yes, because of a woman named Mira, and a man who loved her more than anything." The students sat quietly after that. The atmosphere around them suddenly felt deeper, warmer. Later that day, a journalist came in. He asked Mr. Raj, "Is it true you insulted them at first?" Mr. Raj didn't hide the truth. "Yes," he said, "I insulted them. I saw their clothes, not their hearts, and I'll never forgive myself for that." "Why are you sharing this now?" the reporter asked. Mr. Raj looked at Mira's photo and replied, "Because people need to know. That wealth isn't what you keep in your pocket. It's what you carry in your heart." The story went viral. People from all over the city began visiting the restaurant, but not just to eat. Some came to leave notes near Mira's photo. Others came to donate meals for the kind table, the weekly tradition started by Mr. Raj for those who couldn't afford food. Some came just to sit quietly, take a deep breath, and feel something real. The restaurant had become a symbol, not of luxury, but of healing. One night, as the lights dimmed and the last customer left, Mr. Raj sat alone at table 7, the table where Mira and her husband had once shared their final meal. The waiter approached with a cup of tea. "Long day?" he asked. Mr. Raj nodded, looking tired but content. Then he asked, "Have you seen him again, her husband?" The waiter shook his head gently. "No, not after that night. He never came back." Mr. Raj looked down at the table, remembering the man's calm voice, his gentle strength, the way he held Mira's hand like it was the most precious thing in the world. "I owe him more than I can ever repay," Raj whispered. A few days later, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived. It had no return address. Just one line written on the front. For the man who learned how to see. Mr. Raj opened it with shaky hands. Inside was a small note, written in simple handwriting. You gave her peace. You gave me one last memory with her. That is more than I asked for. I will never forget what you did. After your mistake. That is what matters most. A grateful husband. Along with the note was a small black and white photo. It was Mira, younger, laughing in the sunlight, her eyes full of life. Mr. Raj held the photo for a long time. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just closed his eyes and smiled. The next morning, he added that photo beside the first one. Now, 2 pictures hung at the entrance, one of Mira near the end of her journey, and one of her youth, full of hope and laughter. People noticed. A child asked, "Who is she?" The waiter replied, "She's someone who taught us what love really looks like." As months passed, other restaurants in the city began similar traditions, offering free meals once a week, placing chairs with notes that said, "You are welcome here." All inspired by Mira, by one simple act of kindness, by one man's regret turned into purpose. Mr. Raj became known not just as a businessman, but as a man who changed. But if anyone asked him what changed him, he would always say the same thing. A poor-looking couple walked in. I insulted them, and they gave me the richest gift of my life. Months had passed since Mira's photo was placed at the entrance of Royal Bites. But her story had not faded. It had only grown stronger. People still stopped to read the message under the photos. Some left flowers. Some left notes. Some just stood quietly, as if they were visiting a place of memory, not just a restaurant. It was no longer just about food. It was about hope, humanity, and healing. One morning, a group of school kids came with their teacher. They had read about the kind table in a local article. The teacher asked if Mr. Raj could speak to them for a few minutes. Mr. Raj agreed. He stood near Mira's photo, surrounded by curious eyes. Who was she? One child asked. Mr. Raj smiled softly. She was a woman with a quiet heart and a powerful soul. And why is she on the wall? Another asked. Because she taught me something, he said. Something I had forgotten. That people are not what they wear, not what they own, but what they carry in their hearts. The teacher smiled. The children nodded. Before leaving, one of the students placed a tiny hand-drawn heart near the frame. It said, "Thank you for teaching my sir how to be kind." That evening, Mr. Raj received a phone call. It was from a woman named Anjali, who worked at a charity foundation. She had heard about Mira's story. "We'd like to start a campaign," she said, "a chain of restaurants offering a kind table, all across the city. We want to name it after Mira." Mr. Raj paused. His throat tightened. "Mira's table," he whispered. Yes, she would have liked that. Weeks later, more restaurants joined the movement. Each one kept a special table reserved, not for the rich, but for the forgotten, the tired, the broken, the ones who had nothing left but hope. Each table had a small plaque. Mira's table, where kindness is always served. People from different cities visited. Influencers shared the story. News channels covered it. But Mr. Raj didn't care about fame anymore. He cared about impact. One day, an old man came to Royal Bites. He walked slowly, using a stick. He wore simple clothes but had sharp, clear eyes. He stood in front of Mira's photo for a long time. The waiter noticed and gently asked, "Do you know her?" The man nodded. "I was in the same army unit as her husband," he said. He was brave, quiet, strong. The waiter guided him to a seat, and Mr. Raj personally served him a cup of tea. The old man shared stories. How Mira's husband once saved 5 soldiers during a flood, how he used to write poems for his wife, and how every letter ended with the same line, "One day I'll bring you the peace you deserve." Mr. Raj listened quietly, feeling his chest tighten with emotion. "Do you know where he is now?" he asked. The old man shook his head. He left the town after her death. No one has heard from him since. Raj looked out the window into the fading light. Somehow he knew, wherever that man was, he was still loving her. That night, Raj sat at Mira's table. He placed a small candle in the center and whispered, "You're still teaching us, Mira. Still changing hearts." And then something strange happened. An envelope was found at the restaurant door. No name, no address, just 2 words. For Mira. Inside it was a photo, a new one. It showed a field of wildflowers, and in the middle, a small wooden bench. On it sat an old man holding a framed photo of Mira. Behind him, a quiet hill. Above him, a clear sky. On the back of the photo, a message was written in familiar handwriting. She found peace. Now I am learning how to live. Thank you for giving her that memory. Tears filled Mr. Raj's eyes. He placed that photo on the wall beside the others. Now, there were 3 frames. Mira's smile in old age, Mira's laughter in her youth, and now her husband's quiet goodbye. The day had ended quietly. Outside Royal Bites, the sky had turned orange and soft pink. The streetlights slowly blinked on, and the world outside rushed as usual. Cars passing, people walking, shops closing. But inside the restaurant, everything was still, peaceful. Mr. Raj stood near the door, where the 3 photos hung like gentle reminders. Mira, old but smiling beside her husband. Mira, young and full of joy. And finally, her husband, sitting alone on a wooden bench, holding her photo in his hands. Beneath them, carved in a wooden plaque, were the words, "Love never asks to be noticed. It only asks to be remembered." Each evening, before closing, Mr. Raj placed a single white flower beneath those pictures, a quiet habit, his way of saying thank you. He stood there now, just watching the photos, remembering, feeling. In the dining area, only one table was occupied, Mira's table. A young woman sat there, holding a small child in her lap. She wore simple clothes. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were tired, but they were open, alert. Her child slept peacefully in her arms. Mr. Raj walked over slowly, holding a bowl of warm soup and a small plate of rice. He placed the food gently on the table and said, "You can eat without worry. This is your table tonight." The woman looked up, surprised. I come have money." Mr. Raj gave her a soft smile. "That's all right. This meal is not for money. It's for hearts like yours." Tears quietly gathered in her eyes. She blinked fast, trying not to cry. "Thank you," she whispered. She began to eat slowly with one hand while holding her child with the other. From across the room, the waiters watched silently. No one disturbed them. No one stared. It was as if the restaurant itself had learned to respect stories it didn't know yet. Later, as the mother finished her meal, she looked toward the entrance. Her eyes caught the 3 pictures on the wall. "Who is she?" she asked softly. Mr. Raj sat beside her, not as the owner of a famous restaurant, but as a simple man. She was someone who walked in here quietly and changed everything. The woman listened carefully. "She and her husband came here once," he continued. "I judged them. I insulted them. I thought they were just poor people trying to enter a place they didn't belong." The woman stayed silent. "But I was wrong," Mr. Raj said, his voice low. "They were the richest people I'd ever met, not in money, but in love, patience, and strength." The child stirred in her lap, still asleep. "She passed away soon after," he said, "but her memory stayed. It taught me how to be human again." The woman wiped her eyes quietly. Mr. Raj stood up. "This table will always be here, for anyone who needs to be seen, for anyone who needs to be reminded. They matter." As she got up to leave, she turned back and looked at the photos again. "I hope I can give my son a heart like hers," she whispered. "You already are," Raj replied with a soft smile. She walked out, holding her baby close, with tears in her eyes and warmth in her heart. That night, after closing, Mr. Raj turned off the main lights and lit a small candle near Mira's photos. The flame flickered gently, casting shadows on the wall. He sat down at table 7, her table, alone. He looked around the empty restaurant and whispered, "You're still here, Mira, in every person we feed, in every heart we touch. You showed us what real wealth looks like, and I promise your story will never fade."